How would you like to be straighter off the tee with more distance and more consistency? Well, today we brought in a very special guest to help you do just that.
We have indeed our very good friend Chris Ryan from Chris Ryan Golf. Now make sure when you've watched this video, you head over to his YouTube channel to check out the video that we've done with irons, plus some great content over on his channel. Now also, Chris has got a very strong Brummie accent, so we are going to put subtitles down below. Chris, how are you? And what have we got in store today?
I'm very conscious about how I'm going to speak now.
You didn't know that was coming, did you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good.
It's a nice morning, haven't we?
Oh yeah, thanks for having us at Forest of Ard as well, because it looks
place.
absolutely stunning.
Absolutely fine. Pleasure to have you here.
Absolutely. Okay, so what have we got installed today?
So we're really going to help people hit the driver better, as Andy said, you know, all of those three things. And we're going to try and keep this pretty simple, because I think we both still coach, you know, people just like this viewing this video, and we often see the same kind of faults, and we see the same things that are fixable, and we're going to keep it pretty simple, but with quite a big impact. So we're going to cover something in the setup, which I really see holding golfers back from kind of moving their body in the right way. Good. We're going to then cover something to do with actually where is the ball being struck on the club face, something that unfortunately lots don't do well. And we're going to talk a little bit about the club face and how influential that is on the golf swing.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. All right, so we get started on the first one then, the setup.
Absolutely. So, you know, when we're setting up to the driver, it's a club that we don't hit as often as the irons, and it's a setup which needs to be different. But because it's maybe a setup we're not as used to, we often find that golfers slip into some habits, and those habits really do stem from the fact that the ball is much further forward in our stance. And I think generally it's understood that the ball should be that far forward in stance, which is great. So I'd like this ball to be just inside that lead heel. But it's then how we actually apply the hands to the golf club, because when I set the golf club and I have the club shaft fairly neutral, the grip is quite a long way to my left.
Yes.
And really, really common is to see a golfer with their trail side sort of reach across to that golf club, and then we see the hips sort of back up this way. And so the three things that I really see, which I'd like people to look at, would be the sternum relative to the belt buckle, the angle of the hips, and where the handle is relative to the golf ball. And those are the things that I see people doing incorrectly all the time.
We do as well.
All the time. And just a quick question on that, Chris. What does that cause? Because, you know, it is vital, the setup, but what do we see the issues, sort of, how does that impact the performance and the ball flight?
Well, there's a pretty much a kind of optimum way of moving our body in the backswing. You know, we need to kind of wind up, we need to rotate, we need to load into our trail side. And very simply, you know, if I just took the golf club away and I set myself up in that fashion, that really promotes a couple of things. It really promotes this kind of lower body swaying away. It really makes it difficult for me to get my upper body behind the golf ball. And ultimately, when I get to the top of the swing, I'm just not really positioned well enough to hit the driver. Now, we are talking specifically about the driver, because if I make this movement and get my upper body like this, I can possibly get away with that with a short time, because we want a little bit more of a downward hit, and we can sort of get away with that when we've got loft. But with that driver, it's difficult to recover.
So we don't really want those downward hits with the driver. We can probably see some slices and some pretty nasty strikes as well.
Absolutely. So what I really like people to do is just use those little checkpoints. And because I said that I see golfers reaching across, what I really like to do when I see a golfer this is kind of understand what we're trying to do, but then give them a little routine as to actually how they can walk into the golf ball in a much better way. Now, if I was to hold this golf club in my trail hand and place the club in behind the ball, fairly naturally, as I do that, I'm going to get this side a little lower.
Yep.
And then as I sort of build my stance around that and place my lead hand on the golf club, that sort of helps me move into that position fairly naturally without really trying to sort of have to kind of figure out and find it. So as I set myself up here, what I'd really love to see, and these are three key points, I'd love to see the sternum or the buttons on my top just slightly behind my belt buckle. I'd like to see the alignment stick that you can see I've placed through my belt loops there level, if not the lead hip slightly higher. And then I'd love to see the club shaft fairly neutral. Now again, if I move into that poorer position, it's often something like this that we see, where hopefully you'll see that the alignment stick has moved there, the handles move further back, and I don't have that relationship established between my body and my
great thing to do, to put the alignment stick in there to actually just understand where you are, and you can actually see it a lot clearer, I suppose.
Absolutely, and take the driver away. If I've got this at home in front of a reflection or a mirror, it's just a great way to start, you know, and you know, just understanding how to move from a kind of normal standing position, how to move into that setup, and like I say, you can do that at home in front of a mirror.
And every person watching can do this, because I think a lot of people would be surprised. They might think they've got a good setup, but until they check it like this, they might go, oh, I didn't realise my hips were here, or my buttons were ahead of my belt. And just making a simple change by going in with the right hand on the golf course, you can do it straight away.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's got their own little routine, and I like to use routine to help people. You know, whatever they're struggling with, we can sort of look at how they actually approach the ball. And for me, going in with your trail hand, and because you're, you know, going to look down towards the target, you naturally sort of set yourself this way, and it really just helps build some good relationships around the ball straight away. And then from there, so we can build our stance and get ourselves set up there.
How often should you be checking this?
Well, I think it's really important that we get ourselves into the right position, and then we work on maintaining it. And I think, you know, when a golfer thinks of practice, they often think about changing. And really, it doesn't have to be changing something, it can be just maintenance, because I'll see golfers who come for a lesson with me and they say, oh, I had a lesson a month ago and my setup was fine. And I said, well, that unfortunately doesn't mean it's fine today, because it will slip into certain habits, and these habits are what we tend to see. So I would be really encouraging people to take a bit of time to get the setup correct, and then just every practice session, just keeping on top of it, whether that's alignment sticks on the ground or something in your belt loop, and just maintain it.
Perfect.
It's definitely easier to maintain than fix it, isn't it?
100%. So if we can get some golfers to sort of get their good positions and maintain them, much better place.
We're not hitting shots with the alignment
no,
stick, are we?
it's more for just routine and getting yourself set up, so
Let's
we can
give
drop
one a
that
rip,
one back
because
in.
look, Chris is a great driver of the golf ball as well. And I think Chris demonstrates this beautifully. He's always set up very well. He hits up on the golf ball, hits a little bit of a draw. So I think if you can copy a setup here, you certainly want to copy what Chris is doing.
Okay, so am I going to hit
See,
one?
I've built you up there, Chris.
You have.
I've built you up to hit a good one.
This one. This hole does set up for me, so hopefully
Beautiful.
I'll hit a good one here.
Beautiful dog leg to the left. Love it. There we go. Draw around the corner.
That is on the green in 2 there. You're looking at maybe a mid-iron to a par 5 there, Chris.
Pretty good. 117 out the gate. Club speed.
Oh, that's
297 carry.
That's okay.
It is Dan
It's
Breeze
a
Pierce.
cold morning. Cold morning. You can have 20 yards onto that when he warms up.
Downwind on the club speed as well. I think you're right. All right, and Chris, we're talking about strike next. So, what have you got?
Well, as soon as we start to miss the middle, and we're talking probably heel toe, high or low, a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to lose some distance, and you're probably going to get some curves on the golf ball that you don't necessarily want. Now, we're lucky that we use drivers which really help with that. The technology in here actually straightens these out. But for many of the people watching, they're going to get curves that they don't really want. Now, the drivers these days are so good, you know, and what happens, and I see this all the time, is golfers do tend to stray towards the heel and the toe, but it still feels good.
Yes.
And so they're not really aware of that. And so they maybe getting curve on the golf ball that doesn't help their game, but they're not really relating or linking that back to strike. So we need to, what I call, take off the blindfold. We need to reveal that strike. And we're going to use some strike spray, and then I'm going to use a really simple game that people can do in practice.
Okay, I see it then.
Perfect.
The old strike spray. We probably just do that every other video now.
Do you know what? And I think this is I think people just overlook this because they're just not aware of it. But I think if the majority of you guys were to do this, you'd be really surprised, and you'd really make some improvements on your driving. Plus, it just feels great hitting these drivers at the middle of the face, doesn't it?
Indeed it
you
does.
know when you really get a pure one, it just feels there's nothing like it.
So you say hitting at the centre. We're now going to get people to try and miss the middle. Okay? So I've sprayed the driver. You can see plenty of spray on there. The more the better. It gets it really clear. And we're just going to use a tee, and we're just going to basically put a line straight down the middle and then one right across the middle. And what I've done is I've split that golf club into 4 quadrants. Now, we know that when we're on the golf course, we want to find that centre point. That's going to give us the most predictable ball flight, the most distance. But what I'd love the people out there to do in practice is, at the drive range, practice area, tee 4 golf balls up and just try and hit a golf ball from each of those 4 quadrants.
Right.
And the key thing is don't think too much. I don't want you to be thinking, stand closer, stand further away. Just use a little bit of your skill, your natural ability to just deliver that golf club to different places. And this is difficult, don't get me wrong, we're not expecting them to be able to do this first time, but if we can have this as, it's 4 shots. So every practice session, leave 4 golf balls, try this. And if you do this over a period of time, you're going to develop your skill, you're going to develop your club head awareness, and you're going to get pretty good at being able to control the strike. Once you can control the strike, we can then focus in on the centre point.
Simple as that. So
It is simple.
for you, we'll get you hitting one, obviously. Your pattern is normally where? In the heel,
Low heel.
low heel.
Low heel.
So we're going to go, what do you recommend if someone's low heel?
So I'm just going to try and hit it high toe.
There we go, perfect.
And I think, you know, again, we've spoken about practice. For me, practice can be technical, but it can be just developing skills.
Yes.
And striking the ball is a skill. And if we just do that more often in practice and create some awareness, we can start to enhance that skill, and the game becomes easier if your skills improve.
I like it.
I like this as well because it's more of an external focus. We've talked about this recently, Pierce, not necessarily thinking about body positions and where things are. It's about you trying to find a certain point on the face. It's definitely more of an external cue for this.
And I'd say once you get good at this as well, you can start actually remedying this on the golf course, which is really good. He's hitting high toe, Andy, so I'm just going to come over here.
Stand off the tee, Pierce.
Actually, the low toe would be the one I'd be worried about. Okay, without looking now, We'd always say this to people.
The
Where
ball
do you
flights are
think
clue.
you did? Where do you think
Gotta
you
be
did that
toe.
one?
I reckon that was pretty good.
Yeah, high toe?
I reckon that was pretty good, pretty
Let's
high.
have a look.
toe.
Sean, let's get a close up
show
of
it
this
to
on
Sean.
the camera. Let's see.
Oh,
he's nailed
look
it.
at that.
He's nailed it.
He's nailed it.
There we go.
It's not actually as high as I thought it felt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is the golfers out there are really going to be surprised at what it feels like and what it actually looks like. And there's often a bit of a difference between the two, but that's why this drill is so important, because we need golfers on the course to be able to hit a shot and relate it to where the ball was struck, because it's only then that you can start to make those what I call little micro moves to refine that centre.
Yeah, I love that.
So try and miss the middle of the face. It's a great tip for you there.
In
that is.
practice, not on the course.
In practice, there we go. Now, if you're enjoying these tips and you think they're helping your game, then make sure you hit that like and leave us a comment down below. Where do you miss your driver? Is it heel? Is it toe? Or is it the middle? Do you hit the middle every time? Let us know in the comments down below. Okay, we've saved the best tip till last, Chris. What are we talking about and how it's going to help them?
Club face.
Club face.
Oh,
Huge.
Pretty important.
King.
Yeah, it's king, and I think the reason club face is so important is because for many golf swings, it's the root cause. You know, and I think we're in an age now where people have got access to phones and slow motions. They video their golf swing and they see lots of things that they don't necessarily like, and especially down at impact. But that's not necessarily the root cause. Very often, it's the club face being slightly open. Now, with any luck, the golfers out there are going to be swinging the driver at 80, 90, 100 miles an hour in some cases. From the top of the golf swing down to impact, it's a very, very short space of time. It's very difficult to fix any issues that they've got. So what I really like, and I know talking to you, you're kind of the same, we like to get that club face under control in the backswing. It's easier, it's simpler to do, and it's generally a little bit easier to manage. So there's two things we're going to look at really. If that club face is open, and we're talking open versus closed because we tend to see that as being the more common issue. We're going to look at a really simple exercise in how you can establish whether your grip is neutral, and then something to take away which really controls that club face quite nicely.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone should have one of these.
So expensive training.
Place that, absolutely. I'm going to place that just in between my thumb and the sort of pad of my hand.
Okay.
And very simply, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my lead hand on the golf club. And then I just want to hold the golf club straight up with the club face fairly neutral.
Yep.
Now, if my tee sits forward of the club shaft, that tells me my grip is weak.
Yep.
Straight away, this is going to lead to an open club face, because how I've positioned my hand means I've got far more range of motion in this direction, which is why the club face tends to get a little open. So what I'd love the golfers out there to do is either have the tee pretty much running straight down the club shaft, and obviously standing here I can see exactly where that is, or it would actually not be a bad idea to just move it so it's slightly behind the grip. That would be my preference. And I think when I coach, I'm looking at windows. I'm not looking at specific positions. So straight down the club or a little bit to the right is kind of what I'm looking for. And if we can find that grip, that's going to make it much easier to control that club face during the backswing.
And this is just huge. I mean, don't underestimate this. The grip can often be the root cause to that face being open
Absolutely.
or closed.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love this drill. Very, very simple.
And similar to what we said with point number 2 there, you do this at home.
Yep.
Just stand there, because if you establish that this isn't maybe where you need to place your hands, you need to be comfortable with just applying it, and you can just do that at home. So sit there watching TV, golf club, and just get used to applying the hand in that fashion.
Couldn't be any simpler.
Exactly.
Couldn't be
So,
any simpler.
I mean, like, it is really easy to do. What about you mentioned the backswing. How can we then take that into the backswing for somebody who has, let's say, a poor move away?
Yeah, well, I think, yes, we want to get the grip right, but that doesn't guarantee anything. We can still undo all that work in the takeaway. So if I take my address to this golf ball and we're saying my grip is pretty good, maybe slightly strong, I can easily roll that club open and kind of fan it open like this. And the club face then points much more towards the sky, and this would be what we'd class as an open face. Now, unless I'm hugely talented, hugely skilled, it's going to be very difficult for me to recover from that. I'm going to start swinging left or storing the body out. Just lots of poor things are going to happen. Now, if I do that again, and if I was to just open the fingers up on my lead hand, those fingers point sort of out in front of me down towards the golf ball.
Yep.
So what I'd love the golfers out there to sort of practice would be, as they work the club back, move the golf club into a position where, as I open up the fingers, they actually now point a little bit more behind me. So I could actually see probably the palm of my hand if I was to open it up. So I'm really trying to control that club face and almost feel as if the club face continues to point at the ball for a little bit longer. You'll notice how the club is pointing a little bit more down towards the ground. The leading edge of that club is about the same as how much I'm tilted over the ball. And the little checkpoint would be, as I open at the fingers, they point a little more behind me versus down in front.
Pretty simple.
The great thing about this as well is it's the slowest part of the swing, isn't it?
And
So it's the easiest thing to change.
Absolutely, and that's what, my kind of philosophy around coaching is figure out what the fault is and then try and find the easiest way to rectify it. And
as
for
early
me,
as possible.
early in the swing, you've got more control over, you've got more time, it's easier to check it, much easier to do.
You can actually see it as well. It's the only part of the swing that you can really
Yeah.
see where the club is doing in that first pass. So it's just,
Exactly.
again, very, very simple.
Yeah, and then when you're hitting shots, you know, you just have that sensation. You almost feel as if the palm of the hand starts to work a little bit more underneath the grip rather than sort of more on top of the grip, and that's when the fingers point out and the club face opens.
And you can really see the TaylorMade logo then pointing towards the ground as opposed to pointing towards the sky.
Absolutely. Fingers behind me, logo down. The incorrect one would be fingers away, logo up.
Perfect.
Going to be some big changes here,
Okay.
right? So the good thing is when Chris does this and he's done all that training there, you're probably going to draw this
Absolutely.
one somewhat.
Now, if someone really struggles with that club face, there's nothing wrong with actually just taking a starting position and actually just making that movement, double checking it with the fingers, and then from there, they can go ahead and
Didn't
Go
know he was
ahead
going
and
to
hit
do
it
that.
from
I'll
there.
tell you that.
No, no.
I'll tell you that for.
You'd have moved out the
For
way,
now.
Piers.
But
That would be leg.
that would be almost what I call stage two. Stage one is
Yes.
kind of no shots, just to understand the movement. Stage two would be do it with a golf ball there, but actually put the pause in. Stage three would be then to try and
Yeah.
take that pause away and blend it into a full
I
golf.
think you just said the exact word there, blending it in. It's almost like I say that the Mona Lisa, you're drawing in dot to dot, but you're just trying to smooth it all out and trying to blend it
Absolutely.
all
Nice analogy there,
in. Mona
Piers.
Lisa. All right, Lisa.
Okay, so some great things there, but really simple. I think that, you know, we've covered the setup, we've covered the grip, we've covered the strike. If you apply those things, they sound simple, but actually they're going to have a huge impact in your game. So make sure you check them out, and make sure you check Chris's channel out as well. Got some great content over on his channel. Some fantastic tips from Chris there that we know will help, that you can take straight to the golf course. Now, are you somebody who consistently slices the golf ball and it's ruining your round of golf? Well, we have a coaching plan called Slice to Draw. This has helped thousands of our members get rid of their slice, and we've had some amazing feedback and some incredible results from it.
Yes, and we do this just in 4 weeks. We cover how to get the club face squarer throughout your golf swing, how to get you on plane. We even show you the swing faults which can cause your slice, and we show you how to play that beautiful high draw. So click the link down below and let us coach you to get rid of that slice forever.